Hello and welcome. Today we begin with a travel advisory issued by the United States for Tanzania, famous for its safaris. This due to the recent deadly protests that marred the country during its election. The US State Department has urged its citizens to reconsider travelling to the East African nation. Washington already had a Category 2 level advisory in place, but it has now increased it to Category 3.
In recent days, diplomatic tensions between the United States and Tanzania have moved sharply into the international spotlight, following what American officials have described as a final and unequivocal warning to the East African nation's leadership. The message, delivered through formal diplomatic channels and reinforced by public statements, has prompted intense debate across Africa, Washington, and global policy circles. While the language of diplomacy is often measured and cautious, the tone surrounding this warning has been unusually direct. Analysts say it reflects deeper concerns within the United States about governance, regional alignment, and the direction of Tanzania's domestic and foreign policies. To understand why this warning has generated such shock, it is necessary to examine Tanzania's strategic importance, the history of U.S.-Tanzania relations, and the broader geopolitical forces shaping Africa's role in a rapidly changing world. Tanzania occupies a pivotal position in East Africa. It is one of the region's largest countries by land area and population, with access to the Indian Ocean and borders with 8 nations. This geographic location makes it a key player in regional trade, security cooperation, and diplomatic influence. For decades, Tanzania has maintained a reputation for political stability and non-alignment. Unlike some of its neighbors, it has largely avoided civil conflict, positioning itself as a mediator and stabilizing force in the region. This stability has made it an attractive partner for international investors, development agencies, and foreign governments, including the United States. U.S.-Tanzania relations date back to the early years of Tanzanian independence. During the Cold War, Tanzania pursued a socialist-oriented development path under President Julius Nyerere, often keeping a cautious distance from Western powers. Yet even during that period, diplomatic ties with Washington were never fully severed. In the post-Cold War era, relations gradually warmed. Tanzania became a recipient of U.S. development assistance, health funding, and security cooperation, particularly in areas such as HIV/AIDS prevention, counterterrorism, and economic development. However, relations have not been without friction. In recent years, Washington has raised concerns over governance issues, democratic practices, and human rights developments in Tanzania. U.S. officials have repeatedly emphasized the importance of political openness, press freedom, and the rule of law as cornerstones of long-term stability. Tanzanian authorities, for their part, have argued that domestic governance is a sovereign matter. Officials have pushed back against what they describe as external interference, insisting that development paths must reflect national priorities rather than foreign expectations. This underlying tension has simmered quietly until now. According to diplomatic sources, the latest warning from Washington centers on a combination of political developments, security considerations, and Tanzania's evolving international partnerships. While U.S. officials have not publicly detailed every concern, statements suggest that patience has worn thin. The phrase "final warning," rarely used in formal diplomacy, has caught the attention of observers. Analysts say it signals that Washington believes its leverage is diminishing or that decisive action is needed before strategic ground is lost. One key factor appears to be Tanzania's growing engagement with non-Western powers. Like many African nations, Tanzania has expanded economic and diplomatic ties with countries such as China, Russia, and members of the Global South. Infrastructure projects, trade agreements, and security cooperation have diversified Tanzania's external relationships, reducing reliance on traditional Western partners. From Washington's perspective, this shift raises strategic questions. The United States has increasingly framed Africa as a critical arena in global competition, particularly as China deepens its economic footprint across the continent. Access to ports, minerals, and political influence has become a central concern for Western policymakers. Tanzania's ports along the Indian Ocean are especially significant. They serve as gateways for regional trade and have the potential to influence shipping routes and economic integration across East and Central Africa. American officials have signaled unease about any developments that could alter the strategic balance in the region. At the same time, governance issues remain a central point of contention. U.S. statements have referenced concerns about political space, civil society, and media freedom. These issues are often framed by Washington as indicators of long-term stability, though African leaders frequently argue that Western standards do not always account for local realities. Public reaction within Tanzania has been mixed. Some citizens see the U.S. warning as an unwelcome intrusion, reinforcing historical grievances about Western pressure and conditional diplomacy. Others express concern that deteriorating relations could affect investment, aid, or international standing. Across Africa more broadly, the warning has been closely watched. Many African governments recognize Tanzania's situation as part of a larger pattern. In recent years, several African states have faced increased Western scrutiny over governance, security cooperation, and foreign alignment. Some leaders view this as a return to conditional engagement reminiscent of earlier decades. Others see it as a natural consequence of Africa's growing strategic importance. Africa is no longer a peripheral player in global affairs. Its population is expanding rapidly, its economies are diversifying, and its resources are central to global supply chains. As a result, external powers are paying closer attention and applying more pressure. The United States has sought to recalibrate its Africa policy in response. Officially, Washington emphasizes partnership, mutual respect, and shared interests. Yet critics argue that warnings and public pressure undermine those principles. Diplomats note that such tensions often arise when strategic priorities collide with values-based diplomacy. On one hand, the United States seeks stability, security cooperation, and access to strategic regions. On the other, it promotes democratic norms and human rights. When partners diverge from those expectations, policy responses become complicated. Tanzania's leadership has remained measured in its public response. Officials have reiterated commitments to sovereignty, development, and regional stability. They have also emphasized Tanzania's willingness to engage constructively with all partners, including the United States, while rejecting external dictates. Behind the scenes, however, negotiations are likely ongoing. Diplomatic warnings are rarely issued without follow-up. Observers expect a period of intense engagement involving quiet talks, reassurances, and potential compromises. Whether these efforts succeed will shape the next phase of U.S.-Tanzania relations. The economic implications are also significant. Tanzania has attracted growing foreign investment in recent years, particularly in energy, mining, agriculture, and infrastructure. Any perception of political risk or diplomatic isolation could affect investor confidence. U.S. companies, while not Tanzania's largest investors, remain important players. Development assistance and trade partnerships also form a substantial part of the bilateral relationship. For Washington, the challenge is to apply pressure without pushing Tanzania further away. For Tanzania, the challenge is to protect sovereignty while maintaining access to global markets and partnerships. This delicate balance reflects a broader dilemma facing many African nations. As global power shifts toward a more multipolar system, African states are navigating competing interests, seeking autonomy without isolation. The days when alignment with a single bloc guaranteed security or prosperity are fading. In this context, warnings and ultimatums carry different weight than they once did. African leaders are increasingly confident in asserting their positions, backed by alternative partnerships and growing regional cooperation. At the same time, they remain aware of the risks of confrontation with major powers. The situation unfolding between the United States and Tanzania encapsulates this moment of transition. It is a test not only of bilateral relations, but of how diplomacy functions in a world where influence is more dispersed and expectations are shifting. As global attention focuses on what comes next, the outcome will offer important clues about the future of U.S.-Africa engagement. Whether the warning leads to recalibration, escalation, or compromise remains uncertain. What is clear is that the stakes extend far beyond one country or one relationship. They touch on questions of power, sovereignty, and how Africa positions itself in a rapidly changing global order.